Hey, go Reverend Houston. Again, certainly want to just y'all so much. Amen. We are on live. Again, we certainly want to thank each and every one of you for your time, for your schedule. And I want to say welcome. Welcome to the 10-4. My name is Ransey O'Daniel. I'm the president of the 10-4 Corporation. And we have with us Mrs. Ruby Simon, who is a board member and a retired educator. The 10-4 Corporation's forte is bringing the divided societies together. And we do that through dialogue and utilizing methods of peace and reconciliation. Reconciliation is possible when we seek to understand both sides of the story, but that can only happen when we actively listen to our neighbors. Although discussions about racial and economic inequalities can be very difficult, and they are vital for healing and unity. The author Stephen Covey famously stated that we should seek first to understand, then to be understood. Well, tonight we have two candidates that we seek to understand so they can be understood. The other candidate was contacted but declined, and I will read you her response, and I will read you my response to her response, and then we will go into the event. The other candidate said, "Hi, your company received a $10,000 contract from the city last summer, and I see that you are actively supporting Maddox bid for re-election. Because of that, this plan for a debate does not work for me. I am willing to participate in a debate. I have publicly requested 3 debates. I do insist, however, that debates adhere to conventional standards, impartial moderators or moderator who ask all questions. Candidates do not present questions for other candidates at the debate. When you ask, I had no idea that you were proposing such an unconventional and neutral situation such as you suggest. I cannot participate in such event." My response was, "You are correct, partially correct about the contract. However, I am a man of integrity with impartiality's perspective when it comes to moderating along with co-moderators. Nonetheless, I understand your issue. I am going to ask you all the same questions just to be fair. And if you all agree, y'all can ask each other questions. That is the format. I plan to ask 2 or 3 and then allow you all to ask one another. I would never be partial to you or to anyone, ma'am." That was my response. And let me make this clear, then we'll get on into it. Let me reiterate and articulate that the Tuscaloosa Police Department training was implemented from Chief Blakely and me. It was his idea. The 10-4 organization, we organized a nonviolent protest, and after the murder of George Floyd, I contacted the police department, and he said, "Come in," and my team met with Chief Blakely, Chief Sanders, Chief Rice, and we gave a demo, and we were chosen over 2 other companies. However, Mayor Walt Maddox supported it wholeheartedly. He didn't implement it, but he did support it. And that's enough of that right there. So I just wanted to clear the air because a lot of people are asking why the other candidate is not here. So that is why that's it. That's for that. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. And we will go ahead and get started. And again, I just want to say thank you. The format is simple, guys. The format is very simple. First of all, the candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then secondly, I would ask each of you all the same questions, maybe 3 or more. And thirdly, if time will allow, if you all agree, y'all can ask each other questions. If not, I will answer questions that people will direct message me, or and then I give you a 1-minute summation to close it out. That's the format. So Pastor Houston, thank you, sir. We're going by alphabetical order. Since your name is Houston, you have 2 minutes to just introduce yourself. And let me get my timer. So it's on you. It's on you, Pastor Houston. Pastor Houston, you're on mute.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ransey, and thank you, 10-4 Corporation, for allowing me the opportunity, to speak directly to the voters and our vision. A lot of people have asked and wondered, why would I run for mayor? And I can tell you that if there's questions about my qualification, I would challenge you to search my history. I currently serve today as the Senior Director for Membership Growth for Alabama One, which is nearly $1 billion industry. And it is also only 10 of us that are on that senior lead team. I also currently pastor a church, which anyone that knows pastoring a church, you are in politics, if ever before. And then just from a history of, I've planted 2 churches, which shows my entrepreneurial spirit. I've owned an insurance agency, which shows that I understand what it means to sacrifice, build from the ground up, as well as I've started an insurance agency from scratch. And then I've had various other opportunities in leadership positions, both in the private and public sector. And when I say private, I'm talking about, public more along nonprofit-based services. I am a guy who unites. I'm a collaborative leader, and I believe that I can move Tuscaloosa from good to great. Tuscaloosa is a good city. Has some great bones in it, but I think with the right vision, right direction, right guidance, that we can go from good to great. Much like, I always throw out Clemson Tigers. They were a good program, but Dabo took them to greatness. And I believe that that's what we deserve as a city. And I believe I am a proven leader. And I believe without a doubt, I'm the most complete and experienced leader in this race.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Houston. And Mayor, the same go for you. You have 2 minutes to just introduce yourself, sir.
Well, thank you, Dr. O'Daniel, and thank you to the 10-4 Corporation and all that you do for the people of Tuscaloosa. I think it's important that as leaders, we continue to challenge ourselves and make us feel uncomfortable by asking the very difficult and tough questions. It's certainly not easy. This summer, you and I worked together following the protest, and I'll never forget seeing about 1,200 people or so in Government Plaza on that Sunday afternoon. Of people coming together, different colors, different backgrounds, different experiences, but all united by the sense that we have to make something out of the tragedy of George Floyd. And so I really believe that if you want an idea of what future performance would look like, I think it's always best to go back and look at past performance. As mayor of Tuscaloosa, I've been part of some historic milestones. I appointed the first African-American police chief, the first African-American city clerk, the first African-American chief human resource officer. I recommended to the council who adopted the first African-American municipal court judge. I recommended and supported our first African-American council president. When I took office, 6% of our executive staff was African-American, 6% were female. Since I've been mayor, 60% of my hires have been white and 40% have been African-American. 55% of my hires have been male and 45% have been female. And we began Tuscaloosa Builds, which is a program which not only helps our minority builders and disadvantaged builders have an opportunity to bid on city work, it helps build and expand their business. This year alone, even in COVID, over $13.9 million worth of contracts I look forward tonight to get to discuss Project Unity because we've done a lot of good. We know we're called to do more, and we plan on doing it. And lastly, let me say I appreciate Pastor Houston being here tonight. Running for mayor is not easy. It is a challenge that stretches you all. And I appreciate his candidacy and I appreciate the effort and work that he's putting in to run for mayor of the city of Tuscaloosa. And I look forward not so much to a debate tonight as a discussion of ideas that can move our community forward.
Yes. Well, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, okay. Mayor,
and Dr. Daniel, I just don't want to apologize up front if I seem delayed. I'm having some issues undoubtedly with the connection. It's paused a couple times on me, but I'm good now. So. Okay.
Oh, that's no problem, sir. That's no. And is it okay if I call you Pastor?
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Pastor, I'm going to start out with you, Pastor, for the first question. And then at the end, Mayor, you'll go first, then Pastor go last. So we're going in alphabetical order. Pastor Houston, what is your platform?
What is my platform? I think it starts with
I'm going to give you 3 minutes on this one.
Okay. All right. I would say that my platform starts with an umbrella approach of a master plan. And that master plan has to do with strategic land use, economic development, as well as infrastructure planning, which includes both growth and maintenance, and then having that encapsulated by a sound fiscal policy that watches our spending and seeks new revenue opportunities. My pillar is the best, business and economic development, which allows for diversification in terms of the businesses that we bring. It also focuses on small business and make sure that we don't forget the bloodline of our community, the small business owners, and make sure that we're able to incentivize them to grow, modernize, and expand. Also, part of what I like to do is see the transit system expand, not just in terms of rapid, but also in terms of its coverage of the city, which will help our senior citizens as well as our people who need to get to greater areas to seek jobs. Educational excellence would be the next part. Educational excellence, starting with a top 5 school district with no failing schools that is graduating college-ready students and career-ready students. We have got to get back to a place where we don't make college the end-all be-all when there's a lot of people who need to know that they can take care of their family and have high-paying jobs as workforce-ready individuals in the vocations and skills like plumbing, electrician, et cetera. Then we want to create safe and secure communities. I know the mayor that Tuscaloosa is safer than when he took over, and I can't argue with that. But there was an uptick from 17, 18 to 19, 20 you can throw out the window, I think, because, and I'm not trying to be ugly with that, but COVID, a lot of people were at home. We've had an uptick in robberies and auto thefts, and a lot of that is around juveniles. And we need to get our juveniles engaged and educate them, whether it's sports, arts, entertainment, education, et cetera. We need to get them more involved.
Yes. Yes, sir. There is a bad connection, Pastor.
And we need to have safer and all of this can be found at my website at HoustonForTuscaloosa.com, HoustonForTuscaloosa.com. And I'll close out with 3 things in less than 30 seconds. Is we need to have a youth division in this city where we are prioritizing our youth and getting them engaged, so we don't have the tragedy like we had the other night. We need to get those kids involved. And then we need to have a financial wellness initiative that's citywide. And last but not least, we need to have attainable housing initiative that increases the inventory and, most importantly, increases access for those who need help getting into those new homes.
Pastor Mayor, what is your platform, sir?
Well, I think the different suns of our solar system are going to revolve around public safety, education, creating jobs, which is also not just being just college ready, but career ready, infrastructure, and then opportunities for all. And so how are we going to go about accomplishing that? In 3 minutes, can't give you the full details, but I think I can outline 3 things that shows you our pathway. Number 1 is through Elevate Tuscaloosa. Through this, we've been able to expand pre-K, which is important. We need children reading to learn instead of learning to read by 3rd grade. We believe that through Elevate, we can eventually get to universal pre-K. We even had it this year, and I think we can make it happen. Second is dual enrollment scholarships. 233 seniors in the Tuscaloosa City Schools, the opportunity to go to either Stillman, Shelton State, or the University of Alabama. 6 free hours of tuition, books, and fees. So that means getting to that college ready and career ready. The third is through our summer learning programs, certain summer learning academies that we're partnering with the school system. And not only are we going to have economic losses coming out of COVID, we're going to have to deal with those educational losses. So I think our Elevate programs will go a long way. And to transit, as part of Elevate Tuscaloosa, by 2025, we'll nearly double our transit system in this city that has a focus on workforce housing, workforce transportation, and rapid transit. Next is with Project Unity, continuing to build not only trust with our community, but continuing to accelerate community policing, which we think can reduce crime, and then also get it to those problems, as Pastor Houston said. I mean, that the tragedy the other day of a 13-year-old kid, but even beyond that young soul, all the souls that surrounded that, they're lost as well. You know, those are opportunities for partnerships with the faith-based community, school system. And one of the things I would like to do under our Project Unity is expand our health program. And that's been a program where every other Friday, the chief and I and the DA meet with parents and students that have been suspended more than twice from our school system. I'd like to expand the wraparound services around that through Project Unity. And lastly, just dealing with infrastructure. House Bill 600, the Transforming Tuscaloosa County legislation that we passed back in 2015, the funding is now began to be solidified. We've got Martin Luther King Jack Warner Parkway under construction, 69 South. They've already started seeing the first improvements. Highway 82 improvements, McWright's Ferry Road. Those infrastructure improvements can go a long way to continue to build strong bones of our city. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Okay, Mayor. So I'm going to come with you with this one since I asked him first. Okay, Mayor, if elected, what 3 steps would you take to put Tuscaloosa on a firmer financial footing?
Well, I think right now, this city is about as strong as you can be. I mean, we're a AAA credit rating by Fitch. Our fund balance has grown by $60 million, and that includes having to cash flow tens of millions of dollars after the April 27th tornado. When I took office, 32% of our water and sewer budget was debt. Today, 22% is debt. When I took office, 60% of our general fund budget was personnel costs. Today, it's 58%. And you look at who we compare with in terms of debt service. I hear a lot of talk about we need to be Huntsville, or we need to be Hoover, or we need to be Auburn. Well, each one of those cities' debt per general fund is over 8%. The city of Tuscaloosa is 5%. And that's with us taking on the Martin Luther King Jack Warner Parkway project that we could have left to the Road Improvement Commission, but we knew we could get it done sooner. So I believe the city is in sound financial footing. Now, moving forward, what I want to do is continue our expenditure management control. Fitch actually cited this in our recent ratings review in October. We want to continue those cost-cutting measures that we implemented beginning in March when we saw the pandemic coming. And we want to see how we can leverage technology to streamline positions in the city. When I took mayor, we had 1,233 positions at the city of Tuscaloosa. Now, since that time, we've grown almost by the size of Northport, and we have 1,293. Now, 24 of that's fire and police. Probably 10 of that, around 10, is going to be amphitheater and river market. We've been able to do a very good job at the city of consolidating and then rewarding our employees to do more. And so that's been a model that we saw in other cities that we've replicated here, and we want that to continue here in the city of Tuscaloosa.
All right. Well, you got a minute left, which you did very well.
I will give my time to the gentleman,
okay.
Pastor Houston.
Okay, well, Pastor Houston, the same question, sir. If elected, What 3 steps would you take to put Tuscaloosa on a firm financial footing? You on mute, Pastor Houghton. Got it?
Yeah, it was frozen.
Okay.
It's unfrozen now. It's three things that I'll do, and I will say spending, maintenance, and additional revenue. First of all, we need to get a handle on spending and where we're spending and
Yeah, you froze up again, sir. Froze up, Pastor.
When he comes back, please give him the time he needs.
He corrected me and said I was incorrect. I did not say Elevate owed that money. I said Elevate was used to borrow that money, and the Tuscaloosa County Road and Improvement Commission is tasked with paying that back. There's also 16.5 million that was borrowed for parks. And then there's another 6.8 that's a contingency allocation. And my whole concern with that is we hear about the AAA bond rating, and we hear that it's like someone refinancing their home. Well, it's not the same as financing your home. When I remortgage my home, I'm remortgaging my home to save money. I'm reducing my outlay, not increasing it. Someone's going to have to pay this money back. And then that moves me to maintenance. We have a maintenance issue. One, already you're not fully accounting for the depreciation of the way that's happening. So that is only kicking the can down the road. That's going to continue to happen. And the mayor didn't create this problem, but he also has not addressed it. So I don't want to say he created that maintenance problem, but we have to change and start putting more money back to take care of that. We have a huge issue coming with corrugated pipes in multiple subdivisions. We already saw one happen in the mayor's very own neighborhood where we had to go out and reline the piping. And if we don't reline the piping, it's going to begin to potentially cause sinkholes, which is going to be even more devastating in terms of what can happen. And then, of course, we're going to have to address the Mercedes pipeline as well, because we've not grown out in that community like we expected to. That pipe is not being used the way it should. Gases are beginning to erode that pipe and impact that infrastructure. We have some serious maintenance issues. But as a businessman and a salesperson, it's also about bringing in more money and additional revenue without raising taxes, I want to say, like the airport. We want to look at the airport. We want to get a commercial hub there. We also want to expand for cargo, and we want to be able to recruit some additional businesses there. And then, of course, the lake and water is a resource that we need to get, as well as even looking at the potential for revisiting a port of Tuscaloosa, and also revisit bringing more train business into Tuscaloosa. That's just a few of the things that would bring in additional revenue: spending, maintenance, and additional revenue.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, Pastor, this question is for you. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put West End on a firmer financial footing?
Yeah. Well, you know, in a lot of ways, Mr. O'Daniel, it's not something different for the West Side. As I've ran more, it's been like, why do we act like what it is to be successful on the West Side is different than it is anywhere else? It's not. What it takes to be successful on the West Side is focus and emphasis on the right things. Now, the mayor will tell you he spent a lot of money on the West Side. I do not disagree with that, but the quality for many of the residents on the West Side, they've not seen that. So we need to focus on bringing in more business. We have got to bring business there. I am going to challenge all of the developers who are interested in Tuscaloosa, either already here or out of state. They need grocery store options. instead of just the Piggly Wiggly. They need a sit-down restaurant so they don't have to come all the way into town to sit down with their family and eat. They need safer community. They need more lighting, more sidewalks, etc. And then the Benjamin Barnes YMCA is just a part of bringing the activity to our youth. You know, back to my point about the way we speak of the West Side. Do you understand that the Benjamin Barnes YMCA brings kids from 17 different city schools? It's more than just the West Side that needs Benjamin Barnes YMCA. And we had an opportunity to do something. We've had an opportunity to do something. And I've already begun the process. Whether I get elected mayor or not, I'm going to challenge some of the private people I've already talked to. We're going to get that Benjamin Barnes YMCA built. And we're going to figure out, it may be on the same property or it may be over at Stillman if they're willing to open back up that deal that they had offered to the city. And we'll fight for community block grants. We'll have private people come in, but we will get that built. It will not be an issue. So to wrap up, we're going to bring more diversity in business. We are going to bring some grocery store options there, at least one more grocery store option. We're going to bring sit-down restaurants. We're going to improve quality of life. And that Riverwalk, it may be a good thing, but who will it benefit? Will it really benefit the people of the West Side, or will others begin to move in and gentrification happens there?
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay, Mayor, same question to you. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put West End on a firmer financial footing?
Well, I mean, you know, I think the reason why we have such strong support in West Tuscaloosa is I'm not a stranger to this argument, nor am I a stranger to this community. You know, I'm a graduate of Central High School. I went to West Lawn and Central West. And for me, those experiences is what really led to my whole belief that we had to do something more, because I remember seeing as a young kid on that bus going to West Lawn, the differences in communities. And that's never left me. And I think you've seen that with whether it's been McKenzie Court or our investments into Maud Watley, or us passing House Bill 600 that gave the school system permanent funding so you could have a new Martin Luther King, us advocating to have TCTA in West Tuscaloosa. You go down MLK and you see the improvements that we make, and that's, I think people understand. And another thing that doesn't get talked about is West End Connects, that provides free Wi-Fi to 8,000 people that live in West Tuscaloosa. And we've been committed to this. I mean, you know, of $500 and nearly $80 million of capital investments, 30% has gone into West Tuscaloosa since I've been mayor. And there's no doubt it was neglected by this city. And one of the first things I did as mayor was to apologize that happened to the people of West Tuscaloosa. And I've done everything in my soul to try to make it up during my time as mayor. You know, one of the things I think about that I'm very proud of is in 2016, when Stillman needed help. You know, I remember taking a lot of criticism about standing in that gap and standing with Stillman. I don't hear a lot of people, I hear a lot of people, you know, now say it was a great decision, but then it was an awfully very difficult decision. And I'm certainly proud of that partnership. And we see today with MLK Jack Warner Parkway, I do think the Western Riverwalk is going to benefit not only the people of West Tuscaloosa, I think it's going to benefit Stillman College, because it's going to be 3.5 blocks from where the students of Stillman College can access the Riverwalk. So let me end with a couple of things. Number one, the Benjamin Barnes Branch YMCA. On August 20th, I recommended to the city council that the city should be involved and should build a new Benjamin Barnes Branch YMCA. This was before the issues that they had with debt. And when the YMCA board came to us in November and said, if we don't get relief from our debt, both the central branch, the downtown branch, excuse me, and the Benjamin Barnes branch would close, the city stepped up. And even very conservative councilors like Councilor Lee Busby helped support and make that happen. And it was a united approach by our city council. We were able to save Benjamin Barnes, and now we're going to build a new Benjamin Barnes, and this commitment is unwavering. And if I come up short, I'm going to do everything I can to help Pastor Houston if he's elected mayor. And if I'm successful, I hope he'll do everything to help us, because Benjamin Barnes will only be successful if the community wraps around it. Building the facility, quite frankly, will be the easier part. It's keeping the facility active with programming that works, that has the community involved, that's going to be the secret to making it work and to help our young people. Because without question, the city has for too long outsourced youth sports and recreation to para or to the YMCA. We need to take a more active role in changing that dynamic.
Amen. Thank you. Now I got another question that after this question, I'm gonna ask my co-moderator, Miss Ruby, does she have any questions? She is a retired educator. So now there are a lot of studies that proves that there is a racial gap and an economic gap. If elected, what will you, what will you do to improve race relations and eradicate institutionalized racism in the city of Tuscaloosa? Let me see. I think that'll go for you first, Pastor Houston, because Mayor was he was last. So that goes to you.
You want me to go first again? That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Hold on for a minute. Who went first? Who went first on that last one, Mayor? You.
I did. I'm fine either way. Go ahead.
No,
I went first.
You go, Mayor. No, you go. I got it mixed. My fault. You go, Mayor. Mayor, if elected, thanks, Pastor Hughes, for correcting me. If elected, what will you do to improve race relations and eradicate institutionalized racism in the city?
Well, I think it begins with the work that we started with Project Unity. One of the first things that we did coming out of the aftermath of George Floyd was we created the Chiefs Commission on Community Policing. And it's a citizens-driven board that's part of this. And think about what we've been able to accomplish. We've eliminated chokeholds. We've adopted a non-biased policing policy. Mandatory reporting. If any police officer sees any suspect or anyone that's in proximity or in contact with TPD, if they see abuse, that is to be reported. We've hired a full-time recruiter with the focus on creating more diversity. The national average right now in policing is about 12% minorities within law enforcement. We've hovered somewhere between 18 to 22%. We want to get those numbers even higher so that we can have a police department reflect its community. We've created a community policing division, and Deputy Chief Sibo Sanders is heading that up and has done a fantastic job. We've implemented diversity training, which I know we talked about earlier, that's making a real difference. We've implemented de-escalation as part of our training, and even we're able to purchase a simulator that actually rewards our officers to be able to be put into a scene and de-escalate the situation. And we even work to reconnect our community. I know that I've taken criticism in this campaign for popsicles with police, but let me tell you that the 1,000+ children that got popsicles from our police officers and made that connection, that is a very good start to begin trust. Now, moving forward, the Mayor's Alliance for Opportunity and Advancement is looking at what can we do to eradicate these disparities, and they still exist today. Number one, I think we've got to continue to focus on education. Now, I do think we've got to give Dr. Daria and our Board of Education some credit. 5 years ago, the high school graduation rate was 72% in the city schools. Today, it's 91%. 4 years ago, we had 2 high schools that were failing. Today, we have none. They are making progress, and we need to continue to support them through our Elevate initiatives and Project Unity initiatives. Second is workforce development. That is going to be, the city actually contracts with the Chamber of Commerce with workforce development. You may have seen that they've just opened up their new workforce development center. We're also working with MBUSI and also the different apprenticeship programs, whether it's Local 372 and pipe fitters, whether it's regarding career technical through the school system. And lastly, I'm going to get back to Benjamin Barnes Branch YMCA. We've got to provide our youth more opportunity at sports. I'm not an athlete like Pastor Houston was, but I wouldn't even be sitting here if it wasn't for sports. I wouldn't have had an opportunity. And I think sports can make a huge difference. And we've got to, whether it's Benjamin Barnes, continue to elevate to improve our athletic opportunities for young people. We need them to be engaged because that is a great opportunity for, it keeps people active. It keeps them around people that care about them. And that's something that, as mayor, I would certainly want to work on in this next term.
All right. Thanks. Okay, Pastor Houston, and this question goes to you, the same question. Let me find it. Oh, if elected, what will you do to improve race relations and eradicate institutionalized racism in the city?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that there were several answers in there that did not address what your question was, but I'm going to address that as well as go back to what the mayor talked about. First of all, racism is real. I grew up in a community that had its fair share of racial challenges. But one thing I have found is that relationship usually solves a lot. You talked about discussion and conversation. We have got to be able to sit down at a table and talk and listen to one another and respect each other and understand that disagreement doesn't mean dislike. It just means that we're different. Recognize the differences, celebrate the differences. And then what I learned through playing sports is if you can take a good old boy from Center, Alabama, from the Hold, and a guy from New York and put them on a football field. They couldn't stand each other in the bedroom, in the dorm room, but you put them on a football field with a common goal. They worked together, and all of those differences went away. And I believe if we have a mayor in this city who will put us behind a common vision of raising the bar from good to great for all, and all capitalized, for all the people of Tuscaloosa, then we can all move together. As far as getting rid of institutionalized racism, institutions in and of themselves are benign, okay? Institutions are made up of people. And the only thing that's going to change institutional racism is changing the hearts of people. And you do that by building relationships and loving them, serving them, and figuring out how to work past the differences. And when there's somebody that wants to keep running down that path, you get rid of them and you move them out. That's what you do. Number two, as far as the police, I'll go through it pretty quick. I call it the ABCs of policing. Police need to be assets. We need to start raising them up as assets versus adversaries. We need to bolster mental health and the department that we've already started, as well as getting all of our police officers trained. We need true community policing. I challenge the people and the police to get involved and get rid of the people who are not buying into the direction the city wants to go. Then I will not defund the police. I will make sure that I give them the resources they need and train them accordingly. I'll engage the youth and educate them, not just in sports, but in education, arts, etc. And I would like to revisit the PAL program and programs like, I call it 2021 DARE, because synthetic drugs is back out there and it's killing our kids. So we need to re-engage those types of programs. We need to equip all the first responders, all of them, not just the police. I fully support our first responders and our police. We're going to get rid of the bad ones. Dr. Ransey, O'Daniel, if they don't cooperate and they don't do their job, they're out of there. I fully support the good guys, but not the bad. We'll highlight the successes. And then last but not least, one of the things I'll do is make sure we resolve this pension issue around the fire and police so they don't have to worry about that. And last but not least, I will definitely address the 24.2% of Tuscaloosa is below the poverty line. We, in a large percentage of those are African Americans, and we need to do something. And many of those live on the west side. So no matter what's been done, enough hasn't been done. And that's why I believe we need to make a change.
And let me just say, I apologize for the phone call. We have hundreds of people, man, they are asking questions and doing everything, calling, but you all are really so great. I'm not going to open it up yet. And I have like 7 questions I've asked for, but I'm going to ask Miss Ruby, does she have a question? So, I mean, you guys are really doing an awesome job. And I'm learning. Thank y'all, both of y'all. I mean, both of y'all are really, really awesome and qualified. I'm loving it. I didn't think I'm glad I had 7 questions, but because I had told people that I was going to let them call in, and they're calling in. But anyway, I'm just really enjoying you all. So this is you all time, and the purpose of this debate just simply explain, why y'all are the best. So I'm gonna let y'all have that privilege. But Miss Ruby, you're the co-moderator. You have any comments, ma'am? You're on mute. You on mute, Miss Ruby? You on mute? Can't hear you, Miss. Okay.
Okay, I was trying to unmute.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Again, thank y'all for participating tonight. And of course, I have several questions, but I'll narrow them down to two that are really uppermost in my mind. If you can give some specific examples that addresses how we can build better race relations. What are your specific plans? How will you actually get those things done? And then specifically for the west side Tuscaloosa, near the Stillman College area, I'm very familiar with that area that is in need of improvements. What are you planning to do in that regard, especially so far as environmental issues, water standing in ditches, etc.?
Now, I lost part of it on the Stillman. It froze up. You said you were familiar with?
Yeah, I'm familiar with water standing in certain areas in that direction. In the Stillman area, the Taylor Circle area, that way. That area in particular, as I drive down that way, I see standing water that I know has been an issue for years. I'd like to know that hopefully you have plans for improving that area.
All right, I'll go first. I think since the mayor went first the last time. First of all, the issue with Stillman, and I'll go backwards on the question.
Hey, Pastor, since we're running out, Pastor, okay. Since we're running out of time, I'm gonna cut it down to 2 minutes rather than 3. So I'm cutting everybody down. Okay.
That's fine. With the Stillman issue, I think it just goes along, Ms. Ruby. First of all, thank you for your question. It goes along with everything else that I think is a challenge that this city has to face. As I said, if Tuscaloosa was a bad city, I wouldn't be living here. But I think Tuscaloosa has an opportunity to be a great city, and things like what you just mentioned need to be addressed. And the way you address them is you prioritize them, not based on when, where, and how, and you don't wait till it's beneficial to the mayor's office or to the city. You when the people need it to be done, and you yourself said that's been quite a while. I know that I will make sure that we assess all of our infrastructure as part of my first plan, and once we get those plans in place, we will publish. See, if you publicize what you're going to do, budget and dealt with, and then as far as specific things that I would do from a race relation, Ms. Ruby, I will continue to do what I believe works. I know you had Dr. King had a way of doing things, and Malcolm X had a way of doing things, and they were both fighting for the same goal. And so I believe we need to all be doing what we can do best. One of the things that I have done personally in my life is always try to break down barriers. I was the first and only right now African-American who hosts a radio show. I am running.
Your phone, it keeps breaking up. Pastor, you keep freezing up.
In this race to do something that's never been done in this city. And I will continue to do it. Number 2 is I think you make it an emphasis. You don't run from it. You don't hide from it. You talk about it, and you encourage that to happen, and you create people along. The mayor talked a lot about how he's hired people, but there's only one person of color in his department staff as far as that level goes, and that was just recent. You show by your actions what you believe, not what you say.
Okay. All right. And Pastor, your connection is kind of bad. It keeps going in and out, so you might need to move it or something. Okay. All right, Mayor.
Well, I mean, my secretary is a white female, So, but if you go back to the hires that I've made, 60%, when I took office, 6% of our department heads were African-American. During my time as mayor, 40%. I would put that up against any local government in the region of Tuscaloosa County and what we've been able to accomplish. And I think it's astounding to have stones thrown after the progress that we've made. And not only just for African-Americans, how about for females? When I took office, 6% were in executive positions. Today, 45% of my hires. So certainly our record speaks of incredible diversity. And then you layer on top of that Tuscaloosa Builds and the other things we've been working on. Let me get to a couple other things. Number one, Pastor Houston mentions that 24% of Tuscaloosa is in poverty. A city that he loves to compare us to is Auburn. Guess what percentage of Auburn's in poverty? 27%. You know why? Because like Auburn, like Tuscaloosa, in our case, we have 20,000 students that live off campus, and the vast majority of those students are considered in poverty. Now, we know differently, but they're considered in poverty because they're living off campus with no income. But that's something that we go through as part of every ratings call every single year. Auburn, who says we need to aspire to, actually has 27%. By the way, we were 27% when I took office. As it relates to race relations, I think the best example that I can give you as it relates to doing the job of listening and bringing people together, Dr. O'Daniel, you remember the tension this past June. You remember the anger. I was part of a lot of discussions, a lot of different people. And you know what happened in Tuscaloosa? We protest peacefully. We made it through a very difficult time, and I was honored to be part of that process with you and many others in our community as we battled the need for people to be heard while at the same time expressing their emotions. That's bringing people together. It's not just talking about it. That is truly bringing people together. And then following the protest, I had over 6 meetings with community leaders, including yourself and others across this community, where I listened and I learned, and then we acted with the things that I talked about through Project Unity. And lastly, as it talks about in front of Stillman College, I think there's some really good opportunities. People call it the pecan orchard, I think is most referenced by. That property owner is also the same property owner with the TCC property. I think with the extension of the Western Riverwalk, knowing that at that terminus, we're about 3.5 blocks from Stillman, I think that is a great opportunity. You mentioned Taylor Circle and Royal Pines. The city actually annexed them after they were developed in the county. We have been able to, through our Noah's Ark Storm Drainage Initiative, make incredible steps in preventing and eliminating a lot of flooding that took place. One of the things that we're going to hopefully accomplish through our next round of funding is to make even more improvements in Taylor Circle. As you know, Taylor Circle is flat as a pancake. And when it was built, they didn't put anything about trying to drain it. But we've made some progress. We're going to come back and do some more work in there to get that water moving. Most water in Tuscaloosa, west of McFarland Boulevard, is trying to make its way to Moody Swamp. And that area is really where that water is really coming down. So we're going to continue to make improvements in that area of the Simon.
Well, everyone, it is 6:48. I have another question, and I know some people are going to be angry because they were expected to be called in. But let me ask you all, and people asking questions like crazy, do you all have a question for each other? If not, then I'm going to ask you my question. Okay.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. The question I have is, what have you done or what will you do to prevent or help slow down the pandemic, COVID-19? Who went first? So I forget.
I believe it's my turn. Well, I mean, certainly I've had to be part of a leadership team to take on an unprecedented crisis. And early on, we made some very difficult decisions that gave DCH the time, not only in terms of creating room capacity, but PPE and staffing, which was another huge issue. This late August, early fall, so about the fall time, we ran into an issue where we had 2,000 students within the UASys or University of Alabama test positive. And although most of it was asymptomatic, there was a real concern of spread into vulnerable communities, and or the university was going to have to shut down just due to the public pressure of having so many. We had to make tough decisions again to save our hospital system and, quite frankly, to save our economy. Because if the university went home like they did in March, we're talking about thousands of people that would have lost their jobs. We have made those tough decisions. We've also put plans in place, whether it was mass giveaways, whether it was the mass vaccination clinic. And I wish ADPH would give us more vaccine. We could, between what the city, county, UA, Tuscaloosa County, EMA, North Fork, Fire College, we could get this whole county vaccinated if they would just give us the more vaccine. And then one of the things I'm proudest of is the first act we took during COVID-19 was to waive all late fees on water and sewer bills and no penalties and no cutoffs. And, you know, that's a decision we made very early on. And then we put 1.4 million back into small businesses. 250 small businesses benefited by that. And that saved thousands of jobs. So in an unprecedented time, I'm proud of our team and what we were able to accomplish.
Pastor?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to send sympathy out to all of the family and individuals that directly or indirectly impacted by COVID. And one of the things I can promise you we will do is that we're going to open safely and we're going to follow the science as close as possible, because as the mayor said, it's difficult because science changes, but we will reopen and that reopen process is going to start. For me, the first thing I will do, and I've already talked to several people, is a COVID response medical advisory team with representation from DCH, because we need local Maud Watley, private physicians, business owners, invested stakeholders, and leaders from our community. And then we will work together for a plan to reopen our schools, fully reopen our schools. And they've done a great job, but we need to push past that. Re-examining some of the business restrictions that we've seen that have hurt some of our small businesses, and then also look at what can we do to incentivize those small businesses to help them, because there's a change coming to the way people do business, and we need to help those small businesses if we can. Continue to protect our most vulnerable, especially residents of long-term care facilities, by giving them the city's full support and protecting them. And then one huge thing that I plan to do is work with Maud Watley. Right now, the last number I had, 55% of whites had gotten the vaccination, and only 11%, this is a state number, of blacks. Blacks were disproportionately hit with death and sickness and severity, and we need to fix that. And we can do that if we have trusted voices and advisors. And I believe Maud Watley represents that in the Tuscaloosa community. So I will work with them to hopefully not just get vaccinations, but educate people on why they can trust and what they should be looking for, because we know the history we've had as African Americans with vaccinations. And I think we need to be sensitive to that, proactive with that, and then put together a plan. And then last but not least, we'll continue to practice the social distancing guidelines and sanitation and masking around City Hall, but we will open up City Hall again and give it access to the people.
Thank you. Is the caller still online? Is the caller still here? Okay. Caller, you want to identify yourself and ask one question. Go ahead, caller. Yeah, one question.
All right.
And who's speaking, first of all? Identify if you want to.
Yeah, this is Dr. Charles Abney, General Counsel for Pinnacle Physician Group, a local diverse group of physicians, 55% African American, been serving this community for 15 years. I'd like to ask the following to both of the mayoral candidates. The mayor of Tuscaloosa has no direct control over DCH, but a mayor's words clearly can impact the direction of a public institution like DCH. Thus, given the fact that Tuscaloosa has 50% racial minority in 2001, is it acceptable that a public institution like DCH can never have a racial minority in its high-level executive leadership, and the practice of only having one racial minority on the DCH Board of Directors acceptable to the public leader like a mayor?
All right, y'all got it. Who wants to go first on that one?
I mean, I don't have a problem going first. I've already spoken with Dr. Abney and attempted to speak with a couple other people from his practice, as well as spoken to leadership at DCH. I do not believe that you just throw out a number per se in terms of, hey, there should have been, but I would challenge the mindset, even though it's not a mayoral city ran business. I would challenge DCH as I would challenge any and every business to look to represent your community through your leadership, your hiring practices, and how you handle your business. If at all possible, I say take the Nick Saban approach. Nick Saban wanted to move from good to great. He diversified where he recruited from and began to recruit nationwide. And we see the result of that as he brought people in from all walks of life. I believe that that's a challenge that not just a DCH thing, because that's one individual thing, but I think as a community, we should always seek diversity and inclusion in our hiring practices. And if you cannot find a qualified person, regardless of what that diversity is, race, minority, etc., then enlarge your fishing hole.
Thank you. Mayor, you next.
Oh, yes, sir. I do want to go back to the last answer, though. Number one, the city has been working with DCH, UAB, UA Health System, Dr. Friend in particular. Our team has contact every single day regarding the latest information regarding COVID-19. Second, the city provided Maud Watley $100,000 in funding to work with David Gay in the community in terms of its first testing and now vaccination. City Hall is open, and I certainly, we, like everyone else you go to, have certain restrictions in place. City Hall has been open for business. Next, regarding schools, that's outside the jurisdiction of the city of Tuscaloosa. That's going to be a decision ultimately for the state superintendent or the Board of Education. And lastly, as it relates to businesses in our community, the city has no orders right now. The orders that are in place are actually from the governor's office and not the mayor's office. So I wanted to make that clear. Dr. Abney, as it relates to Pinnacle, I must say that with Pinnacle and UMC, I'm very concerned about the decisions that have been made. The city has two appointments to the DCH board. One is David Hudson, but we recently just appointed David Gay, who you referenced may be our only minority member of the DCH board. I do think that DCH absolutely needs to diversify. This is a community hospital. The city, the county, Northport actually own the hospital itself. And so I think it needs to work towards representing the community. I can't speak to the particulars of Pinnacle or UMC and the job that they do every day. That's certainly beyond me and beyond the scope of my office, but I am worried about this. I had a conversation this weekend with several local doctors who I asked their advice about this. First it was, I think it's interventionist, if I got that wrong, last year, and now this year intensivist. And so I'm worried that if we continue to contract these out to sound, we're going to lose the local touch of having local doctors with our community. Tuscaloosa is still small enough where my mom, if she wants to see her cardiac doctor or she wants to see her pulmonologist, I'm worried about that. And I've asked our two board members to explore that.
Thank you, Dr. Doc, it's time to go. It's 7 o'clock. We got to go. Appreciate your call, sir. It's 6:59. Gentlemen, thank y'all so much. And I said at the beginning, I was going to give each one of you 1 minute of summation to just say anything you want to say, whatever, but you got 1 minute. And I think, Walt, you're supposed to go first, and Pastor Houston goes last.
Well, Dr. O'Daniel, Ms. Simon, and to Pastor Houston, thank you. It's been a joy to be with you tonight. You know, again, I go back to what I said at the very beginning, is that the honor for me is serving something greater than myself. You know, I was born here, raised here, graduated from Central High School here, and Stephanie and I are raising our family here. This is my hometown, and every corner has a story in my heart as it does yours. For 15 plus years, I've tried to make a difference every single day. And if I'm reelected, we're going to continue to work on those things that we outlined over the past hour. To me, this is a moment whether we can take a huge step forward or determine ourselves to stand still. I've been a mayor that has always led with boldness. I've never been, as Teddy Roosevelt said, one of those cold and timid souls that neither knows victory or defeat. I'm going to continue to be in the arena. I'm going to continue to put the ideas forward to move all of Tuscaloosa forward. Thank you, and God bless you, and may God continue to bless the city of Tuscaloosa.
Amen. Okay, Pastor Houston, you got 1 minute, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much to the mayor, Ms. Ruby, and you, Dr. Ransey, for this opportunity. I want to reiterate that I have been a champion, a conqueror, and an overcomer in every arena, and I have succeeded at the highest level, whether it was on the football field, the classroom, or in my chosen field of profession. So I have been in the arena in numerous places. The only difference between the mayor and I, when he got into politics, he got in at the city council level because he saw something that needed to be done. And that's why I'm running now. I wasn't born in Tuscaloosa. I chose Tuscaloosa. I could have moved away. I could have left. I chose to stay here in Tuscaloosa. And I am running to be the next mayor of Tuscaloosa because.
Amen. But that's it. Your phone. Brothers and sisters, again, everybody on Facebook, certainly want to thank.
And no matter whether I was born here in Tuscaloosa.
Amen. Certainly want to thank Pastor Houston. Certainly want to thank Mayor Walt Maddox. And certainly want to thank Miss Ruby Simon, who is a board member and a retired educator. Again, want to thank all the members of the 10-4. We are diverse, Black, white, young, old, rich, poor, educated, uneducated, Democrat, Republican, gay, straight, hey, Buddhist, Hispanic. We represent the community, and our forte is bringing divided societies together through dialogue and methods of peace and reconciliation. That's just what we do. But reconciliation is only possible when we seek to understand both sides of the story. And so again, the author Covey famously stated that we should seek first to understand, then be understood. I certainly thank the two candidates tonight for coming here, not only seeking to understand, but seeking to be understood. Thank you guys so much. Good luck to both of you all, and God bless you all.
God bless.
Thank you.
God bless.